This is a nice little introduction to isometric drawing. So we're going to take this guy here. All right, now when we do this, we can kind of choose a little bit how we orientate it. So what we'll do is we have our axes there, okay, coming up like this. There are 3 axes, and I'm going to put my front elevation here. Okay, it's not where I'd always put it. I'd often put it over this side here, but it's just going to make the drawing a little bit easier to understand. Okay, so let's see what we can do. Well, first of all, we're going to draw our axes. So pop this up here. So these are our 3 isometric axes. Draw them all with your 30-degree set square. Those are quite light, so sorry, but there you can see they're coming up along here, straight up and out this direction. That one's a little bit longer because that's going to be the long bit of it. Now, before we go any further, we also need to create a scale. So we set up our drawing here a bit and put the scale down this side. Actually, you know what? We'll fit it over here a bit better. So let me come over across. Now, there we are. So let's just make sure I have everything in shot. Now, that is going to be, it's my 45-degree line, and that's my true measurements. This is my 30-degree line. Okay, and this is my scale. Scaled measurements. So let's see what we have. Well, we know the total length of this thing, okay, is going to be 80 mil across with a 30 to 50 and 35 high. It's actually not a very big drawing. So let's get just the basic ones. I always like to get the outer crate done and just make sure you've got a really clear start point on that. So we'll measure off 80 and 35. Okay, and just a little tip, write the numbers down because you can build up a few of these and then it's really annoying if you have to go back and remeasure them. 80 and 35, and if we look at this size here, it's got to be 30. Now, why am I getting these first? Well, we're going to use a technique called crating. So you imagine if you took that object and put a box around it, the best perfect fitting box, that allows us to kind of see where things are a little bit. So we'll scale these 3. Okay, so these are the actual measurements I'm going to use. Now, so what we'll do is we'll take our compass, and that's how we're going to transfer these measurements. Don't bother trying to actually measure them and read them. So we'll put that along here. That's 80 along this way. It was 30 in the other direction. 30 coming out here. And it's 35. Small little drawing. Now, we'll set this up and we'll readjust the camera then if we need to. So I'm going to draw this very lightly in green, but this is the crate that it sits around. Now, you can actually do this all with this one here. So I'll just do as construction lines and I'll go over in the green. Now all you need to do is do this as construction lines. So we'll just come up from there. And look, the way to get these across is just project right across like that. Now, as a little bit of a tip, you want to rub this guy out. Okay, it doesn't matter if it was in there initially, but it just does sometimes cause a bit of confusion. So we'll come across this way and rotate that around. And there we go. So now we have our little crate, and I'm just going to highlight that in green so we can see it. You would just leave this as a lovely construction. Okay. And this allows you to position it on the page, and it's also going to be key to moving the measurements around. Because if you're doing these drawings, if you want the easy and the fast way, you're going to be clever by moving stuff around rather than measuring everything. I only took 3 measurements. Everything else was projected. So we'll just take a little bit of a moment here and get this on camera as best we can so you can really see it. Okay, now. So that's the kind of outline it sits into. Well, from there, I would say let's just start with anything that makes sense. Now, there's a little rectangular piece here, which is going to be, if you look at the drawing, this end face here. So we'll stick that guy in. That looks pretty nice. And then I wouldn't mind getting this big side here to like make everything make sense. So we need 10. So we'll put 10 on our scale. Now what you'll find is at about 10 or below, it becomes very difficult to transfer this on a compass. And you may actually want to transfer it by measurements. Okay, so 10 will correspond to 8 millimeters. And I'm just going to do it. So this is only for little ones, 10 mil or below. Okay, everything else you're better off with the compass. So there is that little measurement going across this way. So I just kind of heavy these in as I go. So you can see that that's where that face comes. Now if you're not sure about it being heavy, just hold off. There's no rush. You can always go back and put it in. Some though will be rather easy like that. And the nice thing is now we can see that that construction line can go all the way back here. Okay, because at some point it's going to kind of come up. So let's see what else we have. Okay, we'll ignore the hidden lines for the moment. But it goes back until here, which is 50 mil back. All right, let's go and find that out. So of course I need to put that on my scale. There we go, 50. And I wouldn't bother trying to get all the measurements in the beginning. You'd be amazed, some you need, some you don't need. Actually, now that I look at this one, I didn't even need 50 because, see if you can realize why I didn't need 50. Because of course, the difference between 50 and 80 is 30, and I could use my 30 to come back this way. But like with a lot of these things, you know, you see these things afterwards sometimes. That cost me 30 seconds of my life. I'll probably survive. So we can bring this guy down here. And now you can begin to see where this comes across. And look, this also will go back across that way. So let's just see, can we get the back of this done, and then it'll all begin to make more sense. Now, this is one where it's a little bit tricky. Okay? That's a 60-degree angle. That is not a 60-degree angle there. So how do we deal with lines that are angles? Basically, we find the start and we find the end. All right, I know where the start is, it's just there. And for the end, I need to see where it comes. Now, it's actually going to be easier to measure that because it's bigger. So what I need to do is I need to do this construction on the side. And you'll find there are times when you have to do this. So here we go. It's actually not very hard to do. Comes up. My total height is, of this thing is 35. So remember, we'll do this as a real thing. There's just different schools of thoughts whether you do them real or scaled. It's I'm going to do this one. So this is just real for now. There's not much in it, to be honest, when we're doing this one. And we'll come back here to 30. Okay, so that's what my actual real thing looked like. Now, I did mention that it's going to be slightly easier to take this measurement here. Okay, we'll just call it X, mainly because it's bigger. I could take the other side of it, but, you know, the bigger ones are a bit easier to work with, a little less fiddly. So there we go, that's X. Put it over here. X, again, we don't care what it is. Scale it. Who knows what it's scaled to? We don't care. Because what we do want to be able to do, though, is reproduce it. So that is a scaled X. So now I have it here, which means I know that this connects from the start to the end, and that's what that looks like. So I'm just going to heavy in that little edge there. No harm to use this with your set square. There we go. And there we go. So now you can see, now we have that whole side. So this might feel a bit tedious and a bit tricky, but the joy is it actually gets fairly fast. Okay, we have a little rectangular piece on top. See it there? Well, watch how we get this done. One part of it comes from there. It goes straight across the edge because that's where it stops. Same with this, straight across. And there's the other edge. Oops, not the best edge in the world, but hey, there we are. There's the other edge. That actually wasn't so bad. And this is how you get fast, all right? You see where the lines go. Let's do another one. This edge goes back along this direction. The other piece that comes down to meet it, the corresponding one of these, comes down from here. So there it is. That's the joint where they meet. And there we have it. Another way you could have gotten that was you could have come across from here. See how this all begins to come together quite rapidly? So this is where these things aren't too bad. Now, we do have the little hidden liney bit. And very nicely, they're all 8. So that's going to be one of those annoying fiddly measurements. So we'll put it on and we'll just take a measurement. We won't try and do this with our compass. So there it is there. 8. And that drops down there. And if we look at that, that's going to measure out to 6. So that's what that corresponds to, 6 millimeters. And we can just measure out this 6 each way. So we're only doing this on the fiddly little ones. Okay. So we can just do these as 2 little construction lines back. All right. And we'll do the same to see how far back they go. Surprisingly hard to do this with a camera in my face. The camera is pretty much where I like my head to really be. So, there we go. And now we can see we've built up where that cutout's going to be. So we'll go over and heavy on the top of it. Okay. Now we're almost done, and this is where we just need to slow down for a little moment and check, are we really, really done? Because of course we should be able to see the inside of it. Now there's 2 ways to do this. Okay, the inside line goes down somewhere like that. Honestly, I find the small measurements annoying, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down on the outside. Okay, I could just measure down there by a scale 10, which is 8, but I could also go down on the outside and back like this. All right, now for one like this, there's not much in it as to which is easier or harder, but as they get more complex, it's often easier to move around the drawing than to constantly remeasure. And that of course goes across from there. And now we can see our lovely isometric view of this little object.